we can't be naive about how education decisions are getting made. You know, there's Common Core, there's school board elections, and you have to listen to key words, you know, and then it gets tricky because there's even, I'll say something controversial, but people of color that are like those kids, you know, or at risk, or if they would just lift up their pants, you know, maybe we could educate them. People of color say stuff like that, so we have to be critical, race conscious. Everything is shaped by the context of this country, which was definitely restricting certain groups from the system, right? So the flip on that, to transform it, is not to not talk about race. It's actually to be very explicit about it and look at systems and structures and the race equity that's either there or not there. There's a lot of us, again, in the education equity reform field that are moving certain policies. The suspension rate policy is one key piece. 99% of school board members are white in this state, you know, or pretty damn near close. Why isn't it a requirement that they take culturally relevant training? They have to take finance and governance training. You know, those are two pillars of running a good school board, but they don't need to know about who's in their community and the history of race in that community. We'll be unrolling a project this year where we'll be training school board members up north in the Mille Lacs region. And MMEP will have strong partners in that work nationally as well. But again, it's a system that needs to be reformed. Just went to the Minnesota School Board Association meeting, school administrators meeting on Monday, spoke there, and you could just imagine the demographics and a lot of coding language of like, why wasn't it the way it used to be? Why aren't schools the way they used to be? Which is code for why are there so many new immigrant and communities of color in our schools? Some of them well-meaning that they're confused, that the leaders are confused, but then we need to get new leaders or make sure those leaders are culturally competent.
Right. Mary Kay, how about you? Implications, lessons as we think about next steps?
Okay, remember, we are in community, and some of you are friends that I have not met yet. However, I would hope that we are close enough in our thinking and our listening and just by being here that we are going to talk about some of the hard stuff. And we need to make sure, all of us, including myself, we need to make sure that we have those conversations on race, on culture. Minnesotans sometimes just are very uncomfortable talking about race, but you know, there are teachers who have come to me and they've said, white female teachers, I'm afraid of black boys. I don't criticize that person. If there is a fear there, let's talk about it. Let's be real, folks. Let's be honest. Let's have the conversations. There's a lot I don't know about some other cultures, but I ask, in my ignorance, would you please help me to pronounce your name correctly? Or is just, I'm going to give you an example. Just recently, when we were planning Everybody's In event, we had this wonderful opportunity. Juan Carlos was going to be here, and we thought we'll take him for Saturday if he can stay over one more night, and we jumped at it. And then we found out, Yom Kippur, there are people on the highest holy day among the Jews who will not be able to come. There's also an Islamic holiday. And we need to expand and understand. I had to apologize about my ignorance and not looking forward on a calendar to see that we would acknowledge or we would enjoy or we would have some conversation about how else can we go about bringing him back. So I think part of learning is making some mistakes and forgiving each other out of love and not criticizing each other. But folks, we need to have these conversations no matter how hard they are. And I'll say publicly, my longtime colleague Joe Nathan and I had some tough conversations around this very mistake that I apologized for. But we came out of the conversations, hard conversations. We came out of those conversations with respect, because they were civil conversations, and we had to go very deeply within ourselves. So what I'm saying is, find the people to talk to when you have an unknown, a question mark. Don't just sit back and say, well, I'm just going to get a recipe on how I can handle. I want everybody to sit down. I want everybody to look forward. Not everybody does that. If you have a fear, if we have a guilt, if we have a criticism, if we have a bias, we need to talk about it. And not talk about it as if it's them.